Good afternoon, Crime Crunchies. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I am your host, Courtney C., a 27-year veteran of the media, and I am so happy to now be able to bring you Crime Crunchies. Guess who? It's that time again, guys. I got me a special person coming on today, and I cannot wait. I'm going to be bringing in Dan Big City Stover. Yay! In the crowd.
Hey, everybody.
Woo! All right. Big City Dan. I am so thrilled. We got to chat for a few minutes, but thank you so much for coming on.
Of course, it's my pleasure. Good to be here with you.
I cannot believe this is like I'm fangirling here because, I first caught you on the Interview Room and you had a channel already, but I just really liked your style. I'm a no nonsense, even though I'm silly. I'm a no nonsense kind of person, and I like direct people, and you seem very direct.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we like to get silly too, and like we often talk about you need to find humor, especially in what, as long as we did the murders and stuff in Chicago, you need to you got to find some way of letting it all out, and we would often do it through humor. So,
well, I'm a
humor and donuts.
Oh my God, I love donuts.
Humor and donuts and coffee.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you again. And so I really like to start out when I'm interviewing and just kind of find out about your beginnings. You lived in Chicago. How did you get started? Just tell me about your early life,
Sure. So, grew up public schools, and I often try to close it. Every time I close our show, I always talk about looking out for the young kids and keeping them in line and how important that is. And I reference often my Aunt Mary, who did that to me many years ago and kind of like grabbed the bull by the horns and steered me the right way. And I'm to this day thankful to her. She was also on the Chicago Police Department. She retired as a sergeant. And really, it was through her that I wanted to become a Chicago police officer. And it's that and Hill Street Blues. I was a big fan of Hill Street Blues. I was like, I want to do this. But I pretty early on, I made the decision that I wanted to go that route. Used to paint with my dad. I almost did that instead of becoming a cop, but I told him, I remember I was supposed to go into the union, and he had it all set up for me. And I said, you know what? I want to be the police. So it was just really in my DNA, I believe. And so I had a couple years where I worked for the Cook County Sheriff's Office back. So that's from 89 to 91. I did that. And I also worked part-time police, a department in a suburb outside of Chicago for 2 years. So in 1991, I got hired onto the Chicago Police Department. I went right out of the academy. I went to, at that time, it was the toughest district in the city. It was actually known throughout the country, if not the world. It was the Inglewood community.
Okay.
And so it's a small district. And that year, 1991, when I came out, we had 101 murders in that district alone. So you think about that. Just in that, and I'm talking basically like 7,500 to 5,500, and really it was like maybe like a 2.5 mile square. 101 murders. Think about that.
That's a lot.
My first day on the job, I saw a couple murders that were just, I was like, holy cow, this is the real deal. But I wanted to go to that district. I wanted to work with policemen who were like top shelf. Turned out to be the best thing that I did. So as I went through my career, when I had a year and a half on, I was already in the blue jeans. I was the blue jean police, as they call TAC officers. And search warrants, kicking in doors, all that good stuff, locking up the bad guy. And then in 1998, I went to the narcotics section, and I worked. I actually had the. I was very fortunate to work for the where we followed like high level, um, the narcos,
Hmm.
the around the city and into the suburbs, all the cartel type level. So did that for 2 years, and then in 2000 I was promoted to detective. I went right to the far south side, which was area 2, and I went right to the homicide unit. It was called different things, violent crimes, but right to homicides, and that's where I met my partner, Tim Murphy, and
Yeah.
we actually met in detective school, and he is now a partner with me on my channel, Big City Crime Inside the Red Tape. So we were partners basically 22 years, and hold on one second.
No.
22 years, and we did, we handled everything from all the way up to 5 people executed in one house in one incident. It was a true whodunit. Yeah, and we solved it. So we handled all of that kind of stuff. And then the last 4 years before I retired, I went to a unit in which all we handled were police involved shootings citywide. So basically, it was a unit comprised of veteran detectives that we'd really been handling police involved shootings for the whole 22 years. And then they formed this unit. They had to form this unit, and we were the pioneers. And that is where we also knew from Detective Area 2 Wills Vilar, who is my other
Yep.
partner. So there's 4 of us on Big City Crime. And he actually became a fellow detective. He was our sergeant, our lieutenant, and ultimately our commander before I retired. And the rest is history. And here I am, retired after 33 years, and I'm thankful, I'm blessed, and I get a kick out of being able to talk about it.
Were you guys all together during that time? And how was that being married
No,
with?
she was. I met my wife when I was over in the 4th District, which is the far southeast side of Chicago. And in '95, we hooked up, and
Mm.
we've been married, and we have a great marriage. And she wasn't a police officer. I met her through an acquaintance, and we're still together today, stronger than ever.
So you mentioned, well, first of all, how do you get Big City? How'd you get that nickname?
So they actually nicknamed me and my partner, Tim Murphy,
Oh.
Big City. So wherever we went, so let's say that we walked into the courthouse, 26 in California, and we walked in, as soon as people saw us, everyone would holler, "Hey, Big City, Big City." And it just stuck. So I'm Big City Dan, and he's Big City Tim.
Really? Did you have to arm wrestle for it for, the show, or does he?
No, no, not at all. So because I actually started the
Okay.
show on my own, if you
Yes,
remember.
I
So in the
remember that.
beginning,
Yeah.
it was just me,
Y-
and um, I decided to start it, and maybe we'll get into that in a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
of why I did it and why I continue to do it. And but yeah, that's how the name Big City came along. It was when I was a detective. Yep.
Well, you mentioned the 5 homicide case. Did they make a documentary of that, or
No, they
no?
have
Okay.
not. And
Okay.
my partner and I always talked about the possibility of writing a book just on that. We were going to name it The Forgotten Five.
Okay.
So these 5 on the south side of Chicago, okay, uh, all executed, all shot in the head, execution style, inside their own house. They weren't bad people. but they were flashy, and these offenders that did it to them thought that they had a lot of money. There's a lot that comes into play with it. A lot of money. Felt disrespected by the main guy of the house about a month before the murder. So, and it's ironic because around the same time frame was a famous case infamous, called the Lane Bryant murders.
Yes.
In Tinley Park. That's all around the same area. And I still believe that one of our offenders is possibly the offender in that Lane Bryant murders. Well, short story is here, Lane Bryant got all of the publicity in the news. Ours got very little. And it was really, to me, it was because you were in a southern suburb of Chicago, was Lane Bryant. And on the south side of Chicago with ours, it picked up a little traction, but not much at all. And we often we still talk about it, and how terrible that was. That I don't know, just if demographics, location, it just didn't pick up the steam. So we were going to do a book called The Forgotten Five on it, and still may do that.
Yeah. Did you solve it, or is that
yes,
unsolved?
we did.
You did. Okay.
Yeah, we solved it. 3 offenders. One was just like the getaway driver, but the 2 main ones, Michael King and Torlon Williams are their names. They're serving life sentences 5 times, and they both confessed to me and Tim, and all recorded. You know, the interrogation was completely recorded because in 2005, Illinois said, okay, you have to record homicide interrogations. So we did. And so it's all recorded. There's no torture. There's no beatings.
Yeah.
I'm talking to them just like I'm talking to you right now. And they gave full confessions.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're serving time where they should be.
So, when you're interviewing people like that or interrogating people, I mean, I was going to ask, is there kind of you learn how to read people? I mean, did you have a technique to get people to talk, to get their confidence? I mean, what would you do?
Yeah. So sorry about that. You're hearing
okay.
Thunder in the background.
Oh my gosh. Oh boy.
But, you do, and it comes with experience. And part of being a successful homicide detective is you have to be able to talk to people, not screaming, none of that. You have to be able to talk to people. And you got to be able to get inside their brain. And oftentimes what would happen with Tim and I is Tim would be the bad cop.
Okay.
And I would be, and so I'm 6'4", and at that time I was in like 300 plus pounds. So I guess one would say intimidating looking. So here I walk into the room with Tim, and they're looking at me thinking, oh, here comes the big guy that's going to pound on me. And it turned out I was the nice one. And, Tim would be the more confrontational, going through the files and asking certain questions, and then they would be like, I'm done talking to this guy, and then they'd end up confessing to me about it. But I just had a knack of being able to talk with people and to get inside their brain. That's the big part, is you have to, like, we had another case, a triple case, and this offender, he's basically crying in my arms. Again, all recorded. How he killed his grandmother, his mother, his quadriplegic uncle who was bedridden. It was just his head in the bed, basically.
Oh my God.
And almost beat and killed his sister. Now, this guy did this. He beat them. And I know with YouTube rules where I can't go into the graphics. But ultimately, what he ends up doing, and picture this guy, as I'm sitting across from him, I see nothing but pure evil in his eyes.
Oh, man.
But then I would always, before I went in to talk to these people, I would actually, and some may say, oh, this guy's goofy, but I would go in and pray
Oh,
before I'd go into that room. And I always felt shielded with God the Almighty. And so I was able to sit there and talk to him, and he's crying about some of the stuff, the way that he killed them and the way that he was checking to make sure that they were deceased.
wow.
And then what does he do after he kills grandma? All over money. He was a junkie, all over money. After he kills the mom and grandma, and he thought he killed his sister, who does he go to now? The quadriplegic that's sitting there in that bed, looking right at him, doing what he's doing.
Knowing it's coming.
And he knows he's coming. And guess what? There ain't a damn thing he can do about it.
God, that's brutal.
Yeah, and he plunges a knife through his eye.
Oh my
straight through.
Dang.
No, we're okay to say that. That's fine. I've said it on my channel.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the other stuff is very graphic and
wow.
But again, to be able to get that type of a confession out of somebody like that, and again, all recorded. You know, you can't say that we tortured or anything because it's all right there. Just press the button and you'll see it for yourself. So yeah, Tim and I had a great chemistry. And I think most of all, we believed in what we were doing. We truly believed that we worked for the dead, and the dead has no voice. And we were the voice of the deceased. We truly believed in that. And I don't care how bad the victim was. You know, south side of Chicago, you got a lot of bad, you know, gangs killing each other. But we always looked at it like, you know what? That was somebody's baby at one time. Yep. And I think because we looked at it and didn't, just a piece of crap, we didn't look at it like that. And Tim and I were very successful in our clear-up rate, and I believe that is why. And for detectives that are current detectives, if you're like burned out or you don't know how to talk to people, you need to probably step aside and let somebody that has that passion to come in and do it. Because you have to have that kind of passion to be a successful homicide detective.
So how about getting information out of people? Because, you know, if you're looking for the bad guy, that has to be a whole different set of skills or same skills?
It is. And again, you have to be able to talk to people. You know, you can't treat people like crap. You gotta, you know, but at the same time, you have to be fair but firm. What we often did, and again, reiterating the south side of Chicago, not often did we get help from the community on our murders. And with that being said, I understand it because they have to live there. Yeah. So I get it. But at some point, you have to stand up and do the right thing. You don't have to stand tall, but you got to stand up. So often the way that Tim and I were successful in getting like witnesses for prosecution is we would locate them, and then we would try to do an interview initially. Most times you get the door slammed in your face. Who are you looking for? We don't know, you know, just the runaround. So we started utilizing, and Tim and I actually were like the pioneers of, I don't want to sound like I'm egotistical. I'm just saying the facts, but some may say, oh, this guy's full of himself.
I don't think so at all.
Okay.
Yeah, no, not at all.
So Tim and I kind of pioneered the system on how to go to the state's attorney's office and able to get a grand jury subpoena. You'd obtain a grand jury subpoena. Now you go find your witnesses and you knock on the door, and they're going to give you a hard time because before that, you would end up sometimes in wrestling matches with people, you know, and they're witnesses, and you know, so this just eliminated all that. and it allowed you to just say, "Hi, Mr. Smith. Yes, we have a grand jury subpoena for you." And they're looking, "What the heck is this?" And then we would offer them, "If you want a ride, we'd be happy to pick you up in the morning when it's time to go. We'll give you a return ride home. We'll stop. We'll grab some McDonald's on the way, whatever you like." So,
Wow.
and they'd be like, "Okay, these guys are okay."
Yeah.
And then
Not
we
so
would
scary.
bring them down to the courthouse, and they would be interviewed then by a state's attorney, and then ultimately they would provide testimony before the grand jury, and then they're locked in. Or sometimes we would lock witnesses out as well. So we'd lock them in, and then when it was now you get the case charged at some point, and now it's time to bring them back in. And usually we had a really good rapport with our witnesses by then, because they knew we were straight shooters, we were straight up guys, and we treated them fairly. And that would ultimately lead to successful prosecutions with guilty, at the end of the day.
Well, I love that you were working smarter, not harder, because I can imagine it's like herding cats, trying to get
Yes.
witnesses to go in, and it takes kind of the onus off of them. They're not snitching, if they're legally bound to go in, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we were able to make it look like it's not us, it's the state's attorney's office. So at some point you were named as a witness, or the investigation led to you being a witness to a murder or whatever the crime was, violent crime. And it was just a good way of doing it. And we tried teaching younger detectives behind us, and hopefully that tradition carries on to this day, because it does. It would eliminate beefs. Just it's just a better way of dealing with people, and yes, and not getting into fights and stuff like that. Why?
Well, we're going to get into your channel, but I want to know, did you have a career defining case, that one that you look back on, or, is there anything that you go, that's the one?
The quintuple was a pretty big one, but no, we had some police officers that were murdered in the line of duty that we worked, and those were very rewarding and satisfying. And I don't know, there's a lot of them. But the quintuple was big because the quintuple was the biggest mass killing in an incident like that since the infamous Richard Speck case, which was in like 1969, I think.
Wow.
And Speck actually had a surviving victim, one of the nurses. I don't know if you're aware of Richard Speck, but he's big time famous serial killer back in the 60s in Chicago on the South Side. So since then, so ours was 5 executed with no witness.
Wow.
And it was, Tim and I worked that case, and then like I said, to be able to solve it.
Yeah.
And then to be able to ultimately, being a successful homicide detective is being able to take it from initially the scene, there's your dead body, and all the way through to successful prosecution.
Correct.
And then to have the family there. And in this case, we had members of the families of 5 victims.
Wow.
And they gave us a standing ovation.
Oh, wow.
It was unbelievable to feel. And being able to do that is so rewarding. It really is. I can't imagine any other job being that rewarding. Like I said, to be able to do all of that and be successful with it.
I can hear it in your voice even now.
Yeah.
When you talk about those people. It's in there, with those people that you changed their lives. So how did you start out your channel? Because you were the Lone Ranger there for a while.
I was. So the way it started was actually my wife, Jackie. She had talked to me even before I retired, and she was like, "Dan, you should really think about doing this podcast." I was like, "I don't want nothing to do with it. I want that stuff to be erased from my mind."
Hmm.
And so when we came to where we live now, I live in Florida. I'm not afraid to say it.
Hmm.
But came down and I said, I'm going to go back to my roots and start a painting business, which is what I did before I became a policeman back in '89. And I started doing that and was very successful with that as well. And um, one of our dear customers who we became super good friends with, Todd, and Todd was like, Dan, please tell me some of these stories. He and his wife, tell me more stories. Tell me more stories. I'm like, oh gosh, you don't want to hear this stuff. And they did. They
Yeah.
wanted to hear it.
Yeah.
And he was like big into YouTube. He's like, dude, you got to do this because there are people that want to hear these kinds of stories. So I thought about it. I started that. I actually signed up for the channel. I think it was in June. And but I didn't do my first video until January 9th of this year. So it's been basically seven months. And I just started talking about it. And guess what? And this is going to sound probably bizarre to a lot of your viewers, but ever since so leading up to that, I always had the bad nightmares. I mean, vivid nightmares.
I bet.
Morgue scenes and I know I can't say, there's not a lot I can't say, but just very vivid in color and yeah, graphic, as my wife's telling me. And I wasn't sleeping good from it, but guess what? Todd talks me along with Jackie into doing this. I started, and since I've been talking about it, no dreams, no nightmares.
It's been therapy.
It's therapeutic, and
You're getting it out.
It's like you flip the switch and the stuff is gone. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Wow.
You know? Yeah.
You're free.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And then I realized that there's a lot of, people that they do in fact want to hear this stuff. So, and I'm like, okay, well, here, I'll tell you, I walked through the blood.
Yeah.
I was in the blood, and I'll tell you exactly, excuse me. I'll tell you exactly what it's like to be an actual homicide detective. And so I started doing it on my own, and then I was able to bring on my partner, Tim Murphy, of 22 years, and Will Spielar, who retired as our commander. And then this young lady reached out to me, Maureen O'Connell. A lot of people out there are going to say, "Oh, I know who Maureen is."
Did you know her before?
I did not.
So really?
Maureen is a fellow South Side of Chicago, or like we are, and she caught my channel, just me talking alone about it, and she reached out. And then fast forward, after maybe a month of doing it with Tim and Will, yeah, there's that sexy Will right over there.
There he is, right there. Yep.
Yeah, he is.
In Vegas.
Yeah, he is. And Tim with the bald head. Sometimes I'm trying to get him to wear the toupee. But see, that's part of our humor.
Yeah.
And then there's Maureen. There's Maureen the blonde. So Maureen's always on big shows and Fox.
Yeah.
So and she's very, very smart. So is Will. Will's very smart. Me and Tim are like grunts. But,
no.
Yeah, but I always say at least they were able to, God bless me with being able to solve murders. There's Bob Gilliam, if anyone knows Bob.
Oh,
Bob can no longer do any of those shows because he went back to work.
Okay.
So,
gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, so
what a treat. So
between the three of us, the one morning I asked the guys, I says, hey, what do you think about, let's ask Maureen if she'd like to become an actual partner, a partner in the LLC. We asked her and she came on, and the rest is history. We have great chemistry. And I'm so blessed, Courtney. I am truly blessed to be where I am at right now with this
Wow.
channel. And I can't say enough good about it. And and then the name. So some may say, well, what's inside the red tape? Because I always start out the show, welcome to Big City Crime Inside the Red Tape. In Chicago, the red tape was used by us. So everybody knows about the yellow crime scene tape.
Yep.
Right? Well, the red, that's the outer perimeter. And that's basically to keep everybody, the citizens and everybody out. And it's always easier to shrink a crime scene than it is. So you want to get that out there and make it as big as possible. The red crime scene tape is where only certain people would be able to go in. That's the inner perimeter. That would be the lead detectives.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the coroner, or in our case, the medical examiner's office. That's basically it. And the forensic investigators, they would be allowed in there. It's like if you go in that red inner perimeter, you're going to be, and you're going to testify. You're going to get called to testify. So we would have like bosses, like superintendent of police, to show up and say, "Oh, boss, you don't want to step in there." Well, you know, why? Well, because you have no business in there. Truly.
I've heard that they won't it doesn't matter who you are, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You know, it's our scene, and you really, other than you're just going in to look, okay, you don't need to go in there and look at it. Okay. Save yourself that nightmare. Truly. Just let us handle it. And it's for the integrity of the scene, really. I mean, you want it, you know, to be able to say there's very minimal amounts of people that were in there. And of course, you had the initial responders, the first responders that showed up. They're the first ones, paramedics. But then we close all that off and cordon it off with the red tape. So that's how we got the name.
That's fascinating. I had no idea, but I love that. That's very clever, because you're letting everybody in the red tape, and you know, you're going to really fill and between all four of you, especially with Maureen coming from the FBI and all your different roles. I mean, you really are getting.
Yeah. Maureen was a forensic expert. And so her knowledge with the forensics is just superior. And so, you know, put it all together. And then Will, like I said, our partner Will, that handsome devil in the red shirt, he's like I say, he went all the way up to commander of our police involved shooting unit the last 4 years. So Will is super, super sharp, articulate, and he's able to give the viewers the perspective from the boss's side. And he'd be the first one to say, yeah, keep your butt out of the red tape. Don't go in the red tape. And he was a commander. So we kind of bring everything to the channel. And yeah. So it's cool.
I love it. Well, you know, and it's interesting because you kind of came on I came on in February with the Nancy Guthrie thing. That was all the timing. I mean, and I've had Boomer Investigates on. He was, you know, 30-year in St. Petersburg PD. I don't know if you've ever caught his show, Boomer Investigates, but
I do know who Boomer is.
Okay, great.
You know what? I really don't watch a whole lot of other, because I don't want it really to taint my way of thinking. I do watch some, but when I'm watching something like, for example, Nancy Guthrie, I'm getting the facts from somebody like Brian Enton, because I know that Brian Enton is providing factual information, or the actual a certain news channel that I feel that I can believe. Not all of them, but a certain one. And I will go based off of that in my own mind.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get tainted by others, if that makes sense.
No, it totally, and it's really important, you know, and I have specifically reached out to like you and Boomer because I mean, am looking at all the different theories, and I like being able to bounce ideas off of people, because you're going to, while I'm like, woo, 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 you're going to be like, no, rein it in, rein it in. And
Mhm.
that's what I need, is somebody who's going to rein it in. And, we've been fascinated by this Nancy Guthrie case. I mean, is this one case for a century? Is this 1 in a million type case that you've ever seen anything like this before?
It's very unusual, I can say
Yeah.
that. The circumstances are very unusual, very bizarre. I do have my sights set on who I think is involved. Of course, can't say it,
Oh,
but
Dan.
I'm very. What's that?
You can say it, Dan. You
Often
want to
they've
say
tried
it.
to. The people who watch the show with me, they've kind of put two and two together, and I don't really think it's a big secret, honestly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, without being able to actually say definitively that's the offender, not going to do that. But
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely.
but it's crazy, that whole scenario, and it's like, I honestly, I don't think it's bigger than some are throwing the theories out there and making it go bigger and bigger. I don't think she was far, if far at all. And we'll just lay. I mean, there are some that throw out some pretty good stuff. I like Daphne's case file. Sometimes she throws out some things that nobody else is really looking at, and she's done a real nice job lately with the since the FBI has been back there and combing through the back, and in some of the homes that were empty at that time, and construction going on, and I'm like,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, so in the first few days when you're watching this unfold and having your expertise and your, partner's expertise, what did you think? And we're not here to pick, the only person I pick on is Nanos. I'm just saying, I back the blue, but I mean, what do you see about the first week? Were you screaming inside your head? What was that feeling?
When I first saw it come on, I originally thought, you know what, she may have just simply walked away. That was my first thoughts. And everyone's making a big deal of the blood. Well, I have seen people in medical crisis that do things that will blow your mind. You go into a house and there's blood everywhere on the walls, the smears. You're like, this has got to be a murder scene. Nope, it was a medical emergency crisis, and people panic. So it does happen. So I was like, well, maybe she just did walk out and walk toward the back, and she's in the brush back there in some cacti or something. And but that was like initially, and then it started to change. And then as time went on, I was like, why is the rubber doormat still sitting in front of the dang door? And I know I could speak for Maureen. Really,
everyone's hearing Maureen. Oh, I get that.
Yes. And then since then it's come out that they really didn't even really care much about the blood. And in fairness to them, I could see how you would think it was she was a walk away early on.
Sure.
Absolutely. But then you start looking at, like, why was the doors propped open and other factors that came into play. And it was like, oh, no. And then, so yeah, stuff like that really ticked me off. You shouldn't have been able to have, like, again, to bring up his name, Brian Enton, who I have high respect for.
Oh, yeah.
He was able to walk up to the front door.
Not his fault. Not his fault.
No, it's not his fault. It's like, where's, at the very least, the crime scene tape? And then the fact that they released that scene, which is a huge mistake. Huge mistake. You know what, Courtney? When Tim and I would have a murder scene, I think our quintuple homicide scene, that 5 bodies, I think we held that for like 2 weeks at least. And the district bosses get, how long are you going to keep, because they got to keep it guarded front and back. It's like, we're going to keep it guarded until we're satisfied before we release it. Because once you release it, they release it to the family.
Mm-hmm.
And in this scenario, what if the family's involved?
That's the thing. And they didn't really go down that route, I don't feel.
No. I also felt that, and I don't know if they did or not, but I haven't heard it. But I think that, not to pick on the family, but early on, you always have to look at who was the last to be with the victim. And in that scenario was Tommaso and Annie, and specifically Tommaso for the drop-off. And he needs to be interviewed independently at the station, not in his front room, not on the street, at the station. Recorded. Absolutely. And again, you're thinking, okay, this is family, and I was of the opinion that Nanos was too, treated the family too much like with kid gloves. And I don't know if that's because Kelly was called. I don't know why he did that, but to be able to come out so quickly and say, they're not involved. They're not involved.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I can honestly say over my career, there's plenty of times that family is absolutely involved. So to come to that conclusion so quickly without doing the basics in the way of interview and not necessarily interrogating, but you have to do it separately, and you got to document their story.
They have to match. And what if they didn't match?
Yeah, well, I mean, and even if they don't match 100%, that's fine. But they've got to be pretty damn close.
Correct.
And for you to not do that, and I would be willing to bet they never did that with them. The interviews were done, at their home, sitting on the couch. No. Everyone
was there for a week.
Yeah. Yes, big mistake. Absolutely big mistake.
They're recording the messages from Savannah for the kidnap letters. They're all there when the FBI is telling Savannah not to pay the ransom. Everybody's there while the ICACS is in there downloading devices. There was no separation of anyone at all. And
no. And that's a major break, because let's say, just for example, and I've seen this happen over my career, to where the husband and wife, we'll just use husband and wife as an example. And if they're interviewed together, they're pretty much going to have the same story exact. And one will do more of the talking. But when you separate them, what if the wife says, you know what, I got to say, something's not right with this, but they're afraid to say it when they're sitting next to their husband, or vice versa. They're afraid to say it. So you just can't do that and expect to, and that's why I think they're really, it seems to be like a kind of a dead end now.
It enables porch guy if that's the case. And if, let's just say the wife is a victim under coercive control, where, like you gave a great example, where she can't say, help me.
Correct.
And they're keeping the, they're helping the case not be solved at that. They're enabling.
Exactly. Like I said, Nanos was kid gloves, I thought, right from the outset.
Yeah.
And, just because it's Savannah's family?
Yes.
In a murder, I don't care who you are.
Well,
my job is to get to the bottom of, and that it was a kidnapping, believed, the abduction. But I pretty much figured out early on that it turned to a murder very quickly. That poor lady didn't have a chance. 84 years old, gets torn out of her house, out of her bed. She was probably dying as they were taking her out the dang door.
I'm hoping. I mean, it's unimaginable, unimaginable, and I'm hoping that that's the case. But with everybody being in the house, do you have an idea about the letters?
I do.
Okay.
I do, and it kind of still goes to my theory. I don't think. Some say, the letters aren't legit. Well, the letters are legit. They were actually sent, but the purpose of them is not legit.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all in my experiences with true kidnappings, and a lot of them were gang-related kidnappings. If there's a ransom, you're going to know right away. And it isn't going to be the police, and it certainly isn't going to be a news channel that's going to know first. It's going to be the family. This note to Savannah, I want the money within a day or two, or she's gone.
Fast.
You're not exactly. So I believe, and especially when you get to the second letter, the Guthrie family. The first one was Savannah, I believe, and then the Guthrie family in the second one. She perished. She's buried with nature. That language certainly isn't the porch guy. The language, the way that's written, is certainly not the porch guy.
Dan, now you're being silly. That is, I see porch guy all over that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like, it's not AI, and to me, it sounds like poetic. It actually sounds poetic to me. And who would use those types of words?
Well, let's see. I did an entire episode where I had ChatGPT literally compare the sentence structure and how I'm just going to say,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
and most of all, why would you send that second letter at all? Let's say the first one really was legit, but why would you send a second letter saying, I'm sorry? I'm sorry. She's buried with nature. She perished. She didn't have a chance. How would you even know it was her heart unless you knew her?
Exactly. But I think that at that point that there were certain people who knew the ransom wasn't going to happen, because if you think about this, there was no world in which Savannah was not going to pay that ransom to get her mother back. Okay. There was also no world where the FBI was going to advise her not to pay the ransom. Okay. Those things didn't get thought out. Because again, if you're like, oh, she's paying that ransom, and she would have, I think she was advised not to, even though it's her decision. But my theory, and I don't want to talk over you, but my theory is because ICAX is in the house the same day that Derek Kalela's text comes in. They're all sitting around. The phones are being downloaded. Someone could have been looking at someone saying, okay, we need to send the second note, and you can't send it because they're watching you. They're all over you. So guess who has some pillow talk and decides that maybe it's person number 2 that needs to send off that second note to establish some death now, because anyway, I don't know. I don't know.
That's just that there's a lot that we don't know.
Correct.
But the investigators, I hope, and with all respect to the guys who are investigating it now, I think it was a problem early on from the top. And top being Nanos and probably whoever the highest ranking boss on the scene was. Other than that, God bless the peacemakers. I mean, they're out there trying to do their job.
Agreed.
And they were handed off a bowl of crap because of the way it was handled early on. And it's hard to catch up from that. It really is.
Have you heard Sergeant Aaron Cross on any of the interviews that he's done?
I think I heard him once on the Interview Room, I think it was.
that he's a union guy. I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds to me like I really feel like there's a lot of victims of this regime of nanos, and I don't know how more how is what am I trying to say?
Morale.
Yes. How was that
Yeah.
when and was that always tough when you were working the street and everything?
Well, it was. I mean, Chicago's obviously a bigger department, but really, in particular, when I was me and Tim were homicide partners. Honestly, I didn't give a crap who the superintendent was, even though some of them were my friends. But I really didn't give a crap who the chief of detectives was, who the commander of the unit was. We were doing our job the way it should be done, no matter who the victim was. That's how we were focused. We would get mid-investigation. They would switch, maybe now you just got a new lieutenant. Hey, Lou, nice to meet you. Don't know you
Yeah.
from Adam, but I heard you were a detective before. Best of luck to you. Dive right back into your case. You know what I mean? So, but in a department like Pima County, I don't
Yeah.
know. And I have spoke on it before. You got to wonder, considering what Nanos did to that
Yeah.
department, you have to wonder, how is the morale? You have to wonder, are people, are they being ridiculed? You know,
I imagine every day is as a game of roulette and fear, because I mean the guy, the pilot of the plane that couldn't even take off, the search and rescue plane, because he had been retaliated against. I mean,
Yep.
these are
Yeah.
people's paychecks and
Yeah.
lives.
And it's in most of all, it's Nancy Guthrie's life, and it's the family. It's Savannah. It's a true disservice because of your freaking ego.
Mhm.
Just calling it the way it is,
Oh,
and the
he's
way
an
that
egomaniac.
and the way that their experience went away because of an ego issue, and then it came back to bite them in the ass.
Yeah.
It truly did. So now your experience, everybody, they're retiring. You see it happening. They're retiring. They're leaving. I'm done. And then you get this poor, lady named Nancy Guthrie, who's just. I mean,
Global.
I don't care what anybody's politics are on it.
Yeah.
I've never looked at politics from a point of view of what I did for a living.
I agree.
And because you can't. And I got some comments early. Oh, who cares about they're Democrats? I don't care what they are.
No, don't care.
She's a victim.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's that poor lady, what she went through when she was awakened in her bed and saw that guy, or who knows who it was she saw.
I agree.
Inside over her bed.
No, it's yeah, believe me. That's why, I mean, I have my mother was 82 and lived with me till she passed away in my home. I don't know if you have parents, but I mean, everyone looks at this like that could be our mom by the grace of God.
Yeah. It's like she made it all them years, and that's the way she goes out. Really?
I mean, she seems like a really wonderful person. And I just look at pictures of her with Savannah. And it's like, you would never know that that's how her long life ended. And, and this kind of segues into this next portion I wanted to ask you about, because you've seen so many reactions. The family just doesn't seem right to me. And I don't play a cop on TV. I wasn't on Hill Street Blues, but tell me what you think.
Well, as far as the family, a lot of people make a big deal out of, well, they're not, they didn't really search. That's what you're asking me, like, right? What I think. Yeah. So I found it strange. I know if it was my mom or my grandma, I'd be out every damn day looking, and I would be and it'd be like, try to tell me, sheriff, that I can't be out here looking. Because guess what? If it's public property, I'm looking.
Yeah.
and I'm hiring private investigators,
Yeah. Well, she's
which
got the
that
money.
didn't happen. That didn't
No.
happen. And then then for the family to tell friends of the family, don't say nothing to nobody. The hell is that all about?
I have
So
a video. Kathy Lee Gifford was
yeah,
asked not to talk. Did you see that?
I did see it. Yes. Yes. Kathy Lee Gifford, she's like
The
an angel.
the church
And,
lady hung up on Karen McDonough,
yeah.
the church friend. I mean,
Yeah. I don't get what that's all about. And I don't get why Nanos is telling people don't search. I just don't understand it. I often in the early on started thinking, well, maybe they have her, that they recovered her, and we just don't know. But that's not true.
how do you know that?
Well, I guess I shouldn't say that it's not true, because I don't know. Maybe it
Okay,
is.
well, I was hoping you knew something because, Maureen
No.
has indicated at one point that she thought they were getting close to Porch Guy. And I know you can't answer for Maureen, but she was really giving me hope. I'm like, hopey, hope, 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 hope.
Yeah.
Does she get any intel or?
If she would have, I know I would know.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the speculation out there, the sources, I don't have sources out in Peacock. I've never even been to Arizona, but some of the talk was that, yeah, like they know exactly who the Porch Guy is. And guess what? Maybe they do.
Yeah.
Maybe they do know exactly who the chef is,
Mm-hmm.
and the waiters that carried this ugly crime out. Maybe they do know, and they just don't have enough. Why? Because early on it was all screwed up,
It
and
was so screwed up.
you can't get that back. You can't get it back.
Well, you get a good defense attorney like Mr. Alan Jackson, who I keep bringing up his name because he was on Karen Reed and he does all this stuff. He would just slaughter this case big time as a
There's no
defense
doubt.
attorney. Yeah.
There's no doubt. And at some point, if there is an arrest made, Nanos is going to be in the hot seat. Whether he's the current sheriff or not, he's going to be in the hot seat. And yes, you're absolutely. I think a public defender would be able to slice apart the investigation. So
That
that's
is
why
sad.
this investigation is going to have to be so well done with overwhelming evidence in order to make the arrest, in my opinion, because you certainly aren't going to be able to get a conviction in court unless you have overwhelmed, because you have too much. First thing I'm saying is, well, you didn't think that the rubber mat in front of the door where you see the Porch Guy, Patriot Pride Fish, hello,
Yeah,
hey, how are you? Is you don't think that was important? I know as a detective, the first thing they'd be saying, detective, you're the lead detective on this, right? Yes, sir. You didn't think that collecting the rubber mat I think it was like day 4, I believe it was when they had the video, when the FBI was finally allowed to help.
Yeah.
So and they came up with those images. You didn't think it was important to secure that mat? You don't think that there possibly could have been saliva, DNA, any kind of shrub? Or what about the shrubs, the weeds that they put on that he put up there by the door, the camera, and then left it there? It was just sitting there. You don't think that that's important to pick up? And some would say, like, I've had this discussion with Maureen because she's a forensic expert, and it's like you could argue that, well, they probably did what they had to do and processed it right there. Why? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just pick the damn thing up, package it up properly, how it's supposed to be done, and then get it on the plane to Quantico?
Bingo.
Quantico, not all these other places, even though they are good labs. Get it to Quantico. That's the top of the line in the world. and let them process it. No, that didn't happen. So the detective, the investigators, whoever it's going to be, is going to get just shredded on the stand, and you better be able to overcome it.
Well, and I had thought that they might be waiting for some of this more difficult DNA to get sorted out with maybe some new technology. But here's the thing, there are certain people in an inner circle where their DNA makes sense to be in the home. And so it might be a catch-22. I mean, how are you going to prove nefarious
Exactly.
actors?
You hit the nail right on the head. So how do you get beyond that?
I mean, you
Even
would
with
have
investigative genealogical DNA. How do you use that when? What if? And again, I'm not saying that the family's involved. I'm not saying that. But what if they are? How do you get around that now?
Well, so do you think that, I don't know if you believe in coincidences, but the Derek Kalala text? I mean, do you think that he could be an informant at this point, that he got that sweetheart deal? Or
I do believe that is possible, and it still remains to be seen. I heard that they moved up his date coming up soon. The exact date I don't know. Just the whole way he was handled kind of blew my mind. I've never seen anything like that, and you have to wonder, as soon as they said he was going to plea, me, Will, Tim, and Maureen, the four of us, we were like, oh, something's happening. He's going to, because that's when they'll be able to flip him and use him.
Yeah. Well, the first who squeals deals, you know.
Often that is the case. Yes.
And, you know, the fact that the FBI had come out very early, the few press conferences they had, and had said that, you know, whoever's doing these notes will be convicted to the fullest extent of the law or whatever. And they didn't. And so that's the only thing I can think of.
I wonder why.
Exactly. I wonder. So,
but we don't know. It may be nothing, but
of course.
But like you said, do you believe in coincidences? Not generally. No. So we'll see. We'll see what comes out of that.
Is there anything that you think we should be watching for? You know, if I guess they're moving his up. I mean, is there anything that could come out? Are they waiting for his plea to get done before they might do something? Or is there a switch? Is it just time, or we don't know?
Yeah, I think right now, that's really about the only thing to be watching, to see what happens with Derek Kalala. And to see if something's announced not too long after that court date, and see what happens. But other than that, I mean, we had some really high hopes. Thought for sure with the genealogical DNA, genetic genealogy, thought maybe, but again, you hit that nail right on the head. Is what if your offenders are people that should have been in the house?
You're going to need that background info. So let me ask you this question. So in your expertise, is it typical that somebody would have to get their plea agreement done and sealed and signed off by the judge and get that done, and then they can make another move? Is that okay?
That's why as soon as we heard that information, we were like, oh, here we go.
So the fact that they moved his date up could be something.
Yeah. And I thought it was bizarre that the way they treated him, that he had to dry out and drugs.
Inpatient.
I've never seen that before. In all my 33 years, I never saw anything.
And then they're going to put him in a little cradle with a little snuggie, and they're going to wheel him off to a sober house. So he gets with the binky.
I just thought that whole thing was in just the fact that they extradited him and kept him there in Arizona. I was like, from California. It's like, wow.
they're taking care of him, considering he was just a curious guy. He was just curious to see what the family would do. And so I really
Yeah.
appreciate the white glove treatment that he's getting.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we shall see.
well, any last words? Anything? Just
I will say that, and I've said this before, that if there is something to Derek Colella right now, there are a lot of very tight sphincters.
oh, ooh,
Yes, there
okay.
are. The bowels are working.
I'm puckering
because
just thinking about it.
They're thinking, OMG, what's he going to give up if he's involved?
Yeah, of course, of
You
course.
But other than that, they may be thinking, we beat it.
My hope, honestly, is for Nancy's remains to be returned to her family. Ultimately,
I've went back and forth on whether she's like in a manhole or septic somewhere close in the neighborhood. I'm still not convinced that could be true. But I kind of am thinking that maybe I think she died right away. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that they may have been like, oops, this is a hot potato, and pulled over in a remote area, especially if they had a 4x4 vehicle, dumped her and let the animals do the rest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you won't find anything.
Probably.
But I don't know. I could be wrong on that. But I mean, I would pray that he's returned for a proper burial, but I just don't know. I find it very strange that the fact that no vehicle was picked up afterwards. They were unable, and like Tim brought up a great point on a couple shows ago, to where initially they were bringing people in, they were doing search warrants, they were at Annie and Tommaso's house and checking for blood and everything like that, and then you haven't heard nothing like
nothing.
That. You don't hear anything. They're not doing anything. So which brings me kind of back to my point of there's nothing more to do. We know who did it, but can't prove it.
Yeah, that could be. Yep.
And I know over our career, me and Tim, there's a lot of people we knew that absolutely committed the murder that we had to watch walk right out of our office. And just not enough to prove it up. We knew they did it, but in a court of law, it's different.
Yep. So. Well, thank you so much. Seriously, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on. So I really enjoyed talking to you. You have so much good information. Yes,
of course. Anytime, let me know.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy. Like I said, we can all help each other out. It's a wonderful thing. And absolutely keep my number, and perhaps maybe we'll have you on our show.
That would be awesome. And thank you to your wife next to you and for helping. And I appreciate it. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Thank you, Crime Crunchies, for joining us. And we will talk to you all next time. Thanks so much, Dan.
Yes, thank you. All right, it was a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.